Welcome to Chapter 7. First Peace, 1360–1369. The French king, John II, was held captive in England for 4 years. The Treaty of Bretigny set his ransom at 3 million crowns and allowed for hostages to be held in lieu of John. The hostages included 2 of his sons, several princes and nobles, 4 inhabitants of Paris, and 2 citizens from each of the 19 principal towns of France. While these hostages were held, John returned to France to try to raise funds to pay the ransom. In 1362, John's son Louis of Anjou, a hostage in English-held Calais, escaped captivity. With his stand-in hostage gone, John felt honor-bound to return to captivity in England. The French crown had been at odds with Navarre, near southern Gascony, since 1354, and in 1363, the Navarrese used the captivity of John II in London and the political weakness of the Dauphin to try to seize power. Although there was no formal treaty, Edward III supported the Navarrese moves, particularly as there was a prospect that he might gain control over the northern and western provinces as a consequence. With this in mind, Edward deliberately slowed the peace negotiations. In 1364, John II died in London, while still in honorable captivity. Charles V succeeded him as King of France. On the 16th of May, 1 month after the Dauphin's accession and 3 days before his coronation as Charles V, the Navarrese suffered a crushing defeat at the Battle of Coquerel. French ascendancy under Charles V, 1369–1389. In 1366, there was a civil war of succession in Castile, part of modern Spain. The forces of the ruler Peter of Castile were pitched against those of his half-brother Henry of Trastamara. The English crown supported Peter, the French supported Henry. French forces were led by Bertrand du Guesclin, a Breton, who rose from relatively humble beginnings to prominence as one of France's war leaders. Charles V provided a force of 12,000, with du Guesclin at their head, to support Trastamara in his invasion of Castile. Peter appealed to England and Aquitaine's Black Prince, Edward of Woodstock, for help, but none was forthcoming, forcing Peter into exile in Aquitaine. The Black Prince had previously agreed to support Peter's claims, but concerns over the terms of the Treaty of Bretigny led him to assist Peter as a representative of Aquitaine, rather than England. He then led an Anglo-Gascon army into Castile. Peter was restored to power after Trastamara's army was defeated at the Battle of Nájera. Although the Castilians had agreed to fund the Black Prince, they failed to do so. The prince was suffering from ill health and returned with his army to Aquitaine. To pay off debts incurred during the Castile campaign, the prince instituted a hearth tax. Arnaud Amanieu VIII, Lord of Albret, had fought on the Black Prince's side during the war. Albret, who already had become discontented by the influx of English administrators into the enlarged Aquitaine, refused to allow the tax to be collected in his fief. He then joined a group of Gascon lords who appealed to Charles V for support in their refusal to pay the tax. Charles V summoned one Gascon lord and the Black Prince to hear the case in his high court in Paris. The Black Prince answered that he would go to Paris with 60,000 men behind him. War broke out again and Edward III resumed the title of King of France. Charles V declared that all the English possessions in France were forfeited, and before the end of 1369 all of Aquitaine was in full revolt. With the Black Prince gone from Castile, Henry of Trastamara led a second invasion that ended with Peter's death at the Battle of Montiel in March 1369. The new Castilian regime provided naval support to French campaigns against Aquitaine and England. 48. In 1372, the Castilian fleet defeated the English fleet in the Battle of La Rochelle. Chapter 8 will be continued.